Hopefully everyone had a better commute today than the last couple days, huh? Indicative of the name tags that are still on the table out there. My name is Julie Keys, and I am the president of the Exit Planning Institute here in the Twin Cities. I'd like to welcome all of you. Thank you for being here. And we've got a great presentation lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about why to assemble an advisory team for your client. And most of the people in the room are advisors, but we do have some business owners in attendance. And really this is going to apply to us as advisors as well as business owners, because many of us who are advisors are also business owners, right? So hopefully this will help you in more ways than one. But first of all, I would like to introduce a couple of people. We've got some annual sponsors for the chapter. First, I'd like to introduce Sean Sima. Sean is a partner at Sima Flatimission Orenstein, and Sean's going to tell us a little bit about their firm.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sean Sima. I host a firm in Minneapolis of 25. We primarily work with small businesses and their owners, offering a wide variety of tax, accounting, audit services, and of course, advisory services, and some specialties in the exit transition planning. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Another annual sponsor of ours is BMO Harris Bank and Liam Higgins, who isn't here yet, but we're very grateful for our annual sponsors and the help that they give us in keeping our chapter going and growing. You're probably receiving some extra marketing from EPI. Some of that has to do with the State of Owner Readiness Survey that we have launched as of December 15th. That survey closes the end of January. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that at the end. I'm also going to talk about the the Owners Forum, which is a follow-up event from the survey where the data of the survey gets rolled out, and it's an educational event for business owners to attend. Very exciting that we can have that happen in the Twin Cities so soon after launching the chapter. So I'd just like to reiterate the purpose of the chapter for the people who are new in the room. I think that we've got several people here who have never been to a meeting. Perhaps you could raise your hand if this is your first chapter meeting. Okay, great. So the purpose of the EPI Twin Cities Metro Area chapter is to create a forum where the local community of professional advisors can collaborate to address unique needs of the local community, develop educational programs for business owners and professional advisors, to build awareness and better prepare our owner for the successful exit of the business, develop, encourage, and foster the adoption of best practices in exit planning, and promote the common business interests of those business advisors, us, engaged in the profession of exit planning. And so, in other words, we're about education and collaboration. And so, without further ado, I would like to invite Todd Crow up here from Bernstein. Todd is also an annual sponsor of the chapter. Thank you, Todd, so much. And Todd is going to be introducing our speakers. So Diane and Ben, if you would want to come on up. Okay, so we're going to go back to that slide. Unfortunately, it may not be as clear as it could be because of the white background, but this is what I had to work with. You're going to see on the top where it says discover, prepare, and decide. So when Ben and I and Diane and Sean and a couple of others in the room went through the SEPA program at different times, we weren't all there at the same time, but we went through the SEPA program at EPI in Chicago. I think we all were in Chicago. They hold it in different places, but this was the value acceleration process. This was our main learning tool. And from this, they used, it was a springboard for us to go into the next and take a deeper dive into the different phases of it. So as far as the discover phase goes, it says here business valuation, getting together with your financial advisor, and then coming up with a preliminary action plan. So for me, as a value growth advisor, if you will, exit planner on the business growth and those kinds of things. I spend a lot of time with my clients on the discover and the prepare phase. There are a lot of people involved in exit planning. Everyone in the room, right, is involved with business clients in an exit planning situation at some point. So hopefully what we can do here today is give you a little bit of an idea of where you fit into the mix. And usually you're in the mix with your business owner clients from the very beginning. Not always, but it's good to stay in touch, and part of that is the communication that we have to participate in. So there's change. Does anyone like change? No one likes change, really, right? Some of us like change for change's sake, but for the most part, we're human beings and we like to be comfortable, and we don't like change. And but there really can be no improvement without it, right? Not every improvement that we make is a good change, or not. I'm sorry. Not every change that we make is an improvement, but we can't make improvements without change. And I think that when I run into obstacles a lot with my business owner clients, it's that they don't want to make changes that they know they have to make because they're uncomfortable. But really, when you think about it, business owners have one shot to do it right. One. And we as advisors need to be advocates for them. And it's important that they know that we've got their back. And so part of the purpose of the chapter and the Exit Planning Institute is to not only educate us as advisors, but to educate our clients. So the education comes through us to them. And part of that education is building a team. So who can relate to this guy? Hanging from a limb, right? So a lack of good advice leaves the owner out on a limb. Sometimes they don't even know that they're out on a limb. We have to let them know that they're out on a limb. They don't know what they don't know. And I think that where the fear comes in is when they realize there's a lot that they don't know. There's that aha moment where they know that they've got to have advisors on their team, people that they can work with. Their CPA, their attorney, their M&A advisor, their financial advisor. The financial advisor is a very important aspect of exit planning. Why? We all know why. The owner needs to know where they're at. And so many of them think that their 401k management company is their financial advisor, don't they? But that's not what we're after here. We're after a relationship where the financial advisor actually has a relationship with the business owner, understands what the business owner needs to maintain their lifestyle going forward into their life, and is a team player. We need team players from all the professional disciplines. And communication is huge. So I've got a couple of client stories that I'd like to share with you, but first, I'd like to talk a little bit about those eggs in one basket. And I think that can be a little more problematic in a lot of different ways, other than just having all the assets of the business in that one basket. All the equity that they have is in their business. They don't diversify like they should. We all know that. But there are other areas that I tend to work on with my clients when I'm trying to build value in the business. And eggs in one basket meaning customer concentration. Eggs in one basket meaning too dependent on one supplier. That supplier goes out of business, or they change their pricing or their delivery, and all of a sudden they're stuck. This happens. I have business owners that this happened to. Or sometimes they get too caught up in one key employee, and if that key employee leaves, then what happens? Okay? So we try really hard when we're working together to make sure that we're neutral, right? We want that Switzerland effect where we don't spend too much time or put too much stock in any one thing or one person. And like Ben said, exit planning really should take 2 to 5 years. So if we go back to the value acceleration grid, okay, where it says in the box down there, you maybe can't read it, but it says this process could take 2 to 6 months. Really, in my experience, it could take a lot longer than that, because you've got the shock of the discover phase where the business owner realizes, okay, well, I need 10 million for my business, but my valuation expert just told me it's only worth 7.5. I've got to have 10 minimum. So what do I do? Well, you're going to work with someone, a quarterback, hopefully, who can help assemble the team and work internally with the business owner to get that value up. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, like I alluded to a minute ago, a lot of different factors that drive value in a business. But strategy, right? We got to have strategy. So Strategy in planning, strategy in implementation. When I work with my clients, I'm working with them on managerial aspects, operational aspects, marketing. Many times there's a partner issue where one partner doesn't get along with another. I've had situations with clients where we really did need to buy out a partner. And sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't, okay? But in order for the business to grow, you have one with a set of values and a set of goals and objectives that don't match up with the other. And maybe one's lagging or one's taking a salary and has a sense of entitlement. So they can't row in the same direction. And this can happen. I see some people nodding their heads out there. So how do we deal with that as advisors? How do we deal with an owner who's stuck? We have to have a tax strategy. We've got to have a legal strategy. We have to have a financial strategy and a growth strategy. How do we implement all those? And how much does the owner have to get involved in all that? It's a little overwhelming. And they get really scared when they have to pick up the phone all the time and talk to their advisor because they think that the fee clock is ticking. So I'd like to have you ask yourself, as an advisor, how often is that fee clock ticking and how much of that is included in the work that you do? Let's not let it be murky. I think that business owners are afraid to pick up the phone and talk to their advisor many times because they don't want to pay all the fees. But like I said before, they have one shot, all right? So it's up to us to educate them. You've got one shot to do this right. And we as advisors need to set up the expectation with the client ahead of time so that they know basically what it's going to cost to work with us, that they know that we're going to stay in communication with each other, so that when the attorney talks to the client and says, well, you know what, I think that your company is probably a good candidate for an ESOP. And then the client calls their accountant and the accountant goes, that's never going to work, okay? We don't want that to happen. We really want to have advisors who can speak and talk to each other and communicate at least quarterly, right? And maybe even meet with the owner as a group. I've done this before too, and it has opened some doors, let's just put it that way. So it takes a little bit to make that happen, and if you, in your professional practice, don't see yourself as the one to coordinate something like that, someone in the group will. Someone needs to lead that. So getting back to the value acceleration process and the prepare phase, like I said, that can take a long time. There's a lot that needs to happen in that phase, and Diane is going to be talking about de-risking the company. De-risking from a legal standpoint, from a tax standpoint, from key employee standpoint. Again, I spend a lot of time here myself, but to get that owner educated so that they understand what their options are, and for the advisor to continue to stay in communication. So as a team of advisors, it's important for us to be wise enough to know that we don't have all the answers. So I don't think that anyone in the room has all the answers. I think it's important for us to remember that we don't, and that we do need each other, because when we do that, everyone wins. A couple of client stories really quick. One, union shop, 55 employees. Dad started the company 24 or 5 years ago. His wife was very involved initially, and then over the last few years has just been involved in OSHA reporting and payroll. The son is in the business, has been for 10 or 15 years in a very low-level managerial position, and he's got a general manager who has been in the business for a very long time and is a very integral part of this business. So unfortunately, I'm not working with that company anymore because we got to a point where we got stuck. Dad had a loyalty, of course, to his son and wanted the son to stay in the business, and Mom, of course, wanted son to have ownership and have a higher position in the business than he had, but he didn't have the competency for that. General manager and son hated each other, didn't talk to each other, backstabbed each other. Dad knew that he couldn't run the business without general manager, and also knew that he couldn't retire without general manager. So what did he do? Nothing. He did nothing. He didn't talk to his general manager about what his future plans were, even though I tried to get him to do that. He would continually, string his son along, that his son was going to have some kind of, power in the business and a minority ownership. And then the wife wanted him to fire the general manager, okay? Because she didn't want to rock the boat at all. She just thought, well, if we just shove this under the rug, it's all going to be dandy. And the last thing that we want to have happen for any of our owners, and this happens, and we know this, is that a decision is made for them, right? Because they don't have a plan, because something happens. There's a disability, there's a death, there's a divorce, there's a disaster, there's a disagreement. And pretty soon that nest egg goes to nothing. So working together like this as a team of advisors is obviously the optimal thing. And in a perfect world, it all works out that way, right? So the challenge for us as advisors is to make sure that when our owners push back, and they will, and they do, and they resist, that we don't run away, okay? That we take a stand for them, and to have that courage to say, all right, I understand where you're coming from. I understand that this is really difficult for you. However, if you don't go down this path, here's what can happen. Do you really want to risk everything that you've done, all that you've built, and all the sacrifice by doing nothing? And usually the answer is no. It's just that they're scared, right? They're scared. They're this guy. So if you don't understand that spot, or if you've never been there yourself, I would recommend that you read some books about that, because I think that having that empathy will help you a lot and help you to kind of get over that hurdle of insisting, without being a bully, okay? All right, so I am going to wrap up. Diane, you're up. Thank you so much.
Well, Julie, I have a quick question for
Oh,
you,
sure.
if I could.
Yep.
Turn this on. So, I don't know if this is on or not. I'll just talk loud. When you were talking about these business owners that need to go through this process, what's the percentage of business owners that actually successfully transition their business?
It's pretty low.
Right.
Yeah. I believe that the statistics now with the 5 Ds, death, divorce, disability, that whole thing, is 40%. 40% of business owners will experience that in one way or another. And we all know from our experience and our education with EPI that the statistics of business owners who actually successfully sell their business is pretty low. So about 70 to 75% have no plan whatsoever. And the majority of them will put their business on the market if they don't have an internal successor, and most will not sell. So we're here to change that as much as we can in our own market. Does that help? Yeah. All right. Well, many times there is no value growth advisor involved in the exit plan, and unfortunately business owners are leaving money on the table because they're accepting or acquiescing and taking a number that really wasn't their goal and isn't going to support their lifestyle. But if they worked with someone who helped them grow the value of the business, that could change their multiple. And it doesn't happen overnight. It usually takes a couple of years. I'd have to say that the majority of the clients I work with are at least 2 years in duration, sometimes 3. I have one client I've been with for 3.5 years, and she's in the process right now of putting her exit plan together, and she has 2 interested parties externally and 1 internally. So we've done a good job of giving her some options, but that's what it does for you.
Usually a large stick.
I'll comment on that.
A large stick or looking out the window, right?
I think that it depends on the owner. I think that from my experience in working with business owners, it depends on a lot of things. It depends on how prepared they are. It depends on how educated they are. And sometimes it takes time. I can think of one in particular that I've been working with now for 2 years. Our first 6 months of meetings were held off-site because he didn't want his employees to know that we were talking about exit strategy, because he didn't want them to get scared. And his name's John, and I said, John, don't you think that they are wondering what's going on here? I mean, you're 64 years old. Of course They're thinking about what you're thinking about. They're wondering. They need to be included in the conversation. And so it took a little while, but he realized that, yes, they really do need to be part of this conversation. And it actually, for us, it happened after we got into some more deeper strategic planning, and we needed to get his management team involved in some of the projects that we had to work on. And so at that point, then he was like, okay, I guess I got to spill the beans. And it's been great. And they really were wondering, what is going on? Why doesn't he have anything in place? He's not telling us anything. And it was a sense of relief for them. And so when I shared that with him, I said, I think they're going to be relieved, and they were. And then he realized, yeah, we should have done this earlier. But we did it. I think that it's wise to have a questionnaire because I think that it's an outside tool that you can use that differentiates itself from actual people talking back and forth, and it's an eye-opener a lot of times for business owners to answer a questionnaire. And EPI actually has tools that we can use, and I've got a few of my own, but just my last experience with that, it went pretty well. It didn't go really well. And part of that is because some of the advisors around the table were not learned in succession planning or exit strategy. And so some of the questions that we asked each other, some of the advisors didn't actually have an answer and should have, in my opinion. None of them are in the room right now, so I can be safe in talking about this. But what I tried to do when I found out, okay, who the financial advisor is, who the CPA is, who the attorney is, I spoke with all of them separately, and the banker too. I had a phone meeting with all of them and told them who I was, what I do, what we're trying to accomplish, and tried to get an idea of what their knowledge level was in exit planning, so that we could have a meeting with the owner and it could actually be productive, and we could all act like we know what we're doing. And so we started out with me, the owners, and the financial advisor. That was our first meeting. And then we had a meeting with the accountant. Instead of having everybody at the table all at once, it seemed to me that probably would be best, because I didn't want the other advisors to be in a situation where they were uncomfortable and weren't prepared. So I thought this would be a good way for them to prepare and to understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Face-to-face is always better than phone anyway. So that's how we did it. Did individual meetings, I as the quarterback, and I don't always have to be, but usually I am when I'm in a situation, and met with all of those guys individually with the owner, so that the owner could ask questions that maybe they hadn't asked. And they were a little bit more enlightened at that point and asked some questions that kind of stumped a couple of them. But you know what they said? To their kudos, they actually said, you know what? Haven't done this before, but we're going to make this work and it's going to be fine. But if I got in a situation where an advisor said, you know what, I'm really not comfortable with this, I think that we should probably bring somebody else in, then I would definitely do that. But the team meeting went great. And it's not going to be the first one, but we're just getting this ball rolling. It's only been a few months, and I'm working with internally to make some improvements too, but that's how we did it. Okay, so thanks all for being here. I was actually going to bring that up about the panel for next month. I'm excited about that. So Dave, that was a timely question. Thanks for asking. All right, so I promised you earlier that I would talk a little bit about the survey and the owners forum. And I think that it might be a good idea for me to keep my comments brief, because I think that there's probably some folks out there who have some questions about the survey and questions about the owners forum. And I think that having it publicly asked, the questions publicly asked, would help everyone have a better understanding of what's going on. So the Exit Planning Institute has launched the survey in the Twin Cities as of December 15th. We've got a couple of very important corporate sponsors, one of whom is actually here represented, Lindquist and Benham. Thank you, Chris Cuneo, for your company's annual sponsorship of the survey and the Owners Forum, the corporate sponsorship. And we also have Clifton Larson Allen as a corporate sponsor. We've had a great deal of help from the AM&AA group. Michelle Bonahum, who is the chapter president for the Alliance of Merger and Acquisition Associates in the Twin Cities, she's helped a lot. Also, Nikki Vincent with ACG has been helping. They've been pushing it out to their database. The goal was to send the survey out to 10,000 business owners, and in hopes of getting 3 to 4% return. That's what they have statistically been able to bring in, is about a 3 to 4% return on the survey. The importance of this survey, though, and hopefully you've all received notification in some way, either from me or from EPI. If you have not, will you show me by a show of hands that you need? Okay, everybody's gotten it, great. The thing about a survey, think about it, if you get an email and somebody asks you to take a survey, you're probably gonna go, I don't have the time, I'll do it later, I'll do it, but I'll do it later, and then you forget. So if we're going to get a good response rate on the survey, we're gonna need to send it out more than once to our business owners that are either currently clients or past clients, whoever it is that we work with who's a business owner. It's important for us to get this market data for our own market, okay? So when we have the Owners Forum on March 6th, a lot of the initial part of the Owners Forum is going to be evaluating the results of that survey and comparing it to other markets. It's really important, I think, for the business owners in our area to understand where they stand, not only amongst their own colleagues, but nationally as well. And it takes 10 or 15 minutes. So I took it and it took me 10. We say 10 to 15 because some people overanalyze the questions, but they're actually really basic. If you're a business owner, I would encourage you to take it yourself. And then you can be schooled in what the questions are. They're all pretty demographic questions. Are you a family-owned business? How long have you been in business? Do you have an internal successor? Do you have a financial plan? Do you have an exit plan? How long do you plan to remain in your business? What is your age? All of those kinds of things. And I think it'll be really helpful for us. So with regard to the survey, the report itself will be distributed to everyone who is involved in the chapter, all of you. Anyone who's ever been to a meeting will have access to that report, and it's free. So the survey is free, the report is free. We want you to be able to use the results of the survey in your own work and in your own professional practices with your clients. I think that this tool, this survey report, is going to be a very good tool for you to use in a way that, say for instance, you have a client who's kind of stuck, like I was talking about before, and I plan to get a hold of them and go over the survey with them. But to actually see it in writing, right? And to know as a business owner where you are on these different topics of exit strategy, and knowing that you're not ready can really help to be an impetus for them to take action. So if you're in a situation with a client where they're stuck and they haven't wanted to take action, this tool could be what it takes to push them over that hump and to get them to do what they need to do in order to exit successfully. So aside from the survey and the Owners Forum, which I'm extremely excited about, and incidentally, I don't think that this will be our last rodeo. I think this is like our first show in the Twin Cities with the survey and the Owners Forum. I know that I think it's Las Vegas, I'm not sure if that's the chapter, but they're launching their second one, and they're the oldest chapter in the country. They have been in existence, I believe, for 5 years, no more than 6. So this is new, okay? The survey's new, the Owners Forum is new. These are new endeavors that Chris Snyder, the CEO of EPI, has launched, and I think that it's going to be really helpful for us moving forward and knowing who needs the most help. And I think the only other thing I'd like to remind you of is, of course, come to the February meeting. We are here until July. And then after that, we go to Midland Hills. We thought we should probably plug into St. Paul somehow. So we're going to spend a few months there, July to October. We'll be at Midland Hills. And then November, December are kind of up in the air, but I did that on purpose because our chapter will have grown by then. We'll have more business owners participating in the meetings. They will be invited, especially at the Owners Forum, to start coming to chapter meetings. Initially, we wanted to just keep it advisors, but we really want to open it up to business owners, because as you can see from the times that you've been here, especially if you've been to more than one meeting, that this is really good content for them as well. So I think that that's all I had to say. Was there anything? Did I miss anything? Okay. So we're here, like I said, till July. In February, we've got Todd, Ashley, and Kathleen talking about de-risking that concentrated business. If you're looking for continuing education credits, please make sure that you sign in the back. And if you want a copy of the PDF from the presentation, Bonnie can get that to you. So just leave her with your business card. And I believe we're adjourned. Thanks so much for coming. Have a great day.